Hey, I'm Weekend Gabe, and you're checking out Weekend at Gabe's, and thanks for checking out this latest episode. While you're here, also follow us on these social medias at Weekend Gabe, at Weekend at Gabe's, and also at The Real Sam Crane. Thanks for checking us out.
Our first guest of the night is a friend of the show, a friend of mine. I absolutely have been in love with his music, his hustle, his grind. He's done. I was reflecting on this of all the different artists that I've met in the last decade, and he is probably the one that has done the most with his talent and maximized his potential, and continues to do that every day and every time I see him in a video or see him partnering or sponsoring with someone. He just absolutely is still astounding and impresses me every time he comes around. So I'm glad to welcome him back, Solo Sam, to the show for the first time. How are you, sir? Good to see you.
You said what?
I said it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you? I might have to put you up on the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Dope. Okay. Dope. Yeah.
Yeah. I was Solo Sam would come by whenever he would whenever you were in studio with us. Sometimes I don't even think you were like a guest. You would just come by the Loyal studio and would go to Subway, go get a sandwich, come back and just hang out and just talk.
Bro. I definitely was eating that chicken pork tuna from Subway. Did y'all hear about that?
No.
Yeah, they got caught with the lawsuit. Like that tuna is.
Oh, the tuna. Yeah.
It's chicken and pork and other cattle. It's not tuna.
Oh, I'm not even surprised, but I'm surprised everyone else is surprised.
I'm surprised because I was definitely eating that tuna. I'm not even I definitely did.
Because you're are you vegan or like I know you don't eat meat, right?
No. I do. It's just that red meat in moderation, but no, I mostly lean on the pescatarian side of things.
Got it. The thing. I'm glad we're starting with food because this is a great place to start. You started to cook for yourself, right? And also as he gets his water, gotta stay hydrated. You started to learn how to cook right when you were in college at Valpo because you're like, oh, this eating thing is a little bit expensive, and I need to consume my dollars. But you've kind of surrounded your branding around eating with the itis, with plated. You seem to incorporate food into a lot of different things. Your presentations, your videos. You got the video, the food show that's up right now as well. Well, what is it about like the love for food and the love of cooking that sort of sparked that interest for you?
Man, I think it comes down to how cooking is very much on the creative side as anything else. Like when it comes down to producing, when you're making a beat, you're really just layering things until you have exactly what you want, and then you have a song. And that's kind of how cooking is for me. So after translating, that passion into part of the whole imagery, it comes down to I never want to find my brand being something that's not sustainable. I don't want to ever market or be something I'm not and have to uphold that for several years. So I'd rather be able to do something that I sustainably can be like, this represents me, this is a part of that, and really make who I am as a person more of my brand rather than making a whole brand identity of Solo Sam and then me as a person having to work that job to be that person.
Right.
I wanted to ask a follow-up to that. So let's say hypothetically, you have a dinner with somebody very important. Let's call it Leor Cohen. Somebody, one of these label execs, and you finna cook them dinner at the crib. What is your dish to go to impress somebody?
That's hard to say. It depends. First, I would want to know what they like. I think that's always important because you could always be like, this is a dish I make that impress somebody. You go ahead and make some fish dish and they're allergic to fish and you didn't impress them at all. If they weren't allergic to anything, I would have to say a tie between my poke bowl because I make.
I saw that episode. It looked delicious.
Yeah, or a recipe that I love is salmon Wellington. So that's just beef Wellington, and you replace that with salmon, and that shit just goes. Yeah.
What about what about the I think it was like the solo sandwich that you did with
Oh,
motherfucking Melly?
MF and Mello. Oh yeah, that is not for that. That's for if you come back, it's late at night and you're like, I need to make some shit. I'm drunk. That's with the solo sandwich. That is not what I make it New York.
That's a lifesaver. That's like, you
Yeah,
toss somebody the ring when they drown.
Yeah, exactly. That's a last minute move.
Word.
But yeah, I always appreciated the way that you've been able to adopt that into the presentation, and also your relationship with Dark Matter Coffee as well to help to spring it alive. Because what Plated, you put together a cookbook to support the album release as well. Talk about what that partnership and them riding with you and helping you also build your brand into.
Yeah, Dark Matter. Dark Matter. I think that you could view them as a company who went through the same creative process as everybody else. Where they started from to where they're at now. So they're always reaching back out to like the local community and just people who they can connect with, kind of the identity of Dark Matter. And I remember a few years back they were having the Dark Matter, like they have a yearly concert, like block party, and I was one of the people who performed at it, and we built that connection there. And then I remember, I hit up Kyle and Jesse over at Dark Matter about how I was rolling out this book called Plated and I have a cookbook, and could we do a coffee? And then we did that. And, ever since then, it's been mutual respect. And this time around, Kyle reached out and was like saying that he wanted to make some kind of programming for Dark Matter through the pandemic. And I was like, yo, well, I'm down to do a cooking show. And from there, they've been like super supportive, full creative control. Like, all they have done really was like set up the space for me to really kind of develop and bring that cooking show to life. And, so working with them is always a pleasure. They're just good people. And, they always want to make something that is, fits the creative that they're working with. They never want to be like, this is dark matter this, or dark matter that. It's really like, yo, this is like powered by Dark Matter, essentially. Like, yo, whatever this is, we're going to help you make this even better. So, they help with that in the pop-up, so we just have a really great, working relationship. Great people over there.
Was this ever something that you imagine? I mean, like winding it back to your first day, maybe making beats, or your first day really diving into music. Could you ever think of down the road, like I might have my own cooking show? Like,
no, man, I didn't think I had anything. I was like, when I started, I was just like, yo, I'm going to write songs over beats. I never thought I'd get into producing, never thought I'd get into cooking at all, and you just got to be like persistent with whatever dreams you have, but also have to be flexible and understand that everything's a stepping stone to the next thing you're going after.
Yeah. And working. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Gabe. Go ahead.
No, Sam, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like you talked about sort of producing and how that's similar to a recipe. How does your voice work as an ingredient for you when you're going through? I think you have one of the more unique voices in the game. Like that's not a spice that you can find on every shelf.
Hey, true. I feel that. I would say the way my voice fits in is, I would compare it to the plating, like the last part of cooking. Like when you cook a dish, you add all the ingredients, you let it, the time of it cooking and putting it all together. When you begin to plate it, you begin to present it. So when I make these beats and everything, that's the dish. But when I add my vocals to it, that is the last final touches to make it, present it to people. I'll never have a song where my vocals are usually the first part. It's like I build the song, and through the song being built, it tells me what it needs. It's kind of like tasting the shit, and you'd be like, I need salt, needs pepper, type shit. So my voice comes last in the whole entire thing.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, when did you figure out like how to maximize your voice? Because when you were when you were at Valpo, you were like kind of doing this, like there was some time when you were not playing football and trying to figure it out. People were kind of like giving you the push to get into it. But what project did you figure out? Like, yo, I think I know how to place my voice in certain places or make it sound a certain way to fit a record, almost like a That's called like vocal production. Like it's a person who helps artists,
Yeah, yeah.
range or the projection so that it can sound just the way it needs to for a record. But since you do a lot of your own stuff producing, well, when did you kind of figure out like how to again maximize your talent?
That's a great question because I feel like anytime that you work on a project or you start working on music, you always believe like this is it. And as you learn and go back to the rudimentary, start of it to get better at it, you realize that where you thought was kind of the peak was actually the start to the next peak. And I would
Mhm.
say when I learned how to use my voice, production, all of that was actually on the project I just put out.
Word,
Wow,
word.
Yeah,
really?
yeah, no. I think everything leading up to this was helping me understand how to like is it my best work? Yes, but I think it's the start of my best work in the sense that everything that I learned and put into this project is really a trial run at understanding all my skills. Like if it was back when, I released my project EP Epic, that was just making songs. Just didn't matter quality of them making the songs. When it was Itis, that came down to producing my own beats and rapping on them.
Mm.
When it came to Plated, it came down to just kind of like pushing creatively what I'm doing with my voice, but also kind of just like finding a better flow. But Principles to Die By was the first time where um, the songwriting pushed the boundaries of what I usually write out. Um, the production pushed the boundaries of what I usually, stepping away from the like chop samples and more of layering down like instrumentation and playing
Right.
and adding that, bringing in features, approaching it differently with my voice, whether it be rapping, whether it be singing, and kind of making the songs feel like an experience and less of just like, this is a song. And when you put all that body of work together and it sounds very cohesive, that this is the first project that I was ever able to do any of that.
Mm. I love the way that you talk about the progress of like your projects along the way. You mentioned in another interview a sentence that really stood out to me. You said it's okay to be bad at things.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way that you just described that evolution, it's like, I feel like artists get so bogged down in trying to make everything perfect, but you
Mhm.
have a really unique perspective. Can you break that idea down for us? Like, how do you wake up in the morning and let's say you make a really bad beat, like,
Mhm.
and you just don't let that derail you. You're just like next beat.
Yeah, no. In that statement, the phrasing for that was to show people that um, you have to be okay and content with understanding that things could be better without it being like this was inherently bad on me.
Yeah.
You have to be able to be vulnerable enough to grow in front of people without um, letting that limitation stop you from growing. So, say, for instance, Weekend at Gabe, you know, you could pull up one of these things, you're live right now, and for a whole hour, not one person come in here.
Oh, that
And
happens. Oh, that
yeah, and,
happens quite a fair
and
bit.
that's okay. And the thing is that's okay. 1 hour, nobody came in here. That's okay. You have the next show, 1 hour, one person's in there. Okay, that's fine. Next time there's two, next time there's three. You can't be bogged down with one person was in here for this hour because when you do that, you start to limit your potential of actually growing and you
Mm,
start maximizing your potential to doubt yourself.
mm,
And so, in saying that, it really comes down to I didn't mind being in front of people and being like, this wasn't my best work next time. When I talked to my homie like May by Leo, but was also Banks, because I make the music. I will make a whole project. Nobody I know will hear it. He will hear it when it's time to mix it. It's not like he'll hear song by song. He will one day open his email and see eight session files from me.
right.
And he's like, all right, this is the project, time to mix. And there are times in the mixing process where we get to the end, we're listening to it, and we're like, oh, this is so great. We should tap so and so for this. We should have tapped so and so for this. But we always come back to, it's okay. We're gonna have a whole nother project, and we'll tap them for that. And that is the way that you've seen people like Kanye West in your mind consistently get better. There are streaks where you're like, every project's different. It's better. It's better. And that's because it's human perspective. Like if I could think about it like this, if I'm in a dunk contest, why would I do my best dunk first?
He's spitting a lot of facts, but Vince did his best dunk first.
He did. And you can win by doing your best dunk first, but guess what happens? Have you not seen artists put out their best album, their first album, and from there on continue to put out bad albums?
Yep.
And that's because they go through this process of being like, this is my best work, and everything after, they're chasing that instead of realizing that was that. This is next. Let go of that, and let's not recreate that in a new album. Let's do what we did on that album completely different. And when you're not afraid to do something like that, and not afraid to grow in front of people, and not afraid to, this was bad, this could be better, you're not able to grow. But when you do that, you could grow. So that's really what I'm focused on. It's just continually growing.
I love that.
That's a great segue into my question. So I went back and re-listened to our first interview that we did in 2015. There was something you said in there that I think that strikes a chord with who you are today. You said that you would want someone to go back and look back at all the work that you've done and see high quality and consistency. 6 years later, how do you feel about reflecting on that? Because I think you can definitely say that there's been quality and consistency with each release that you've put out.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is like, I feel like when I said that, it was based off the idea that, like, it's a slow burn, like, people get caught up in things that matter, but they don't matter. They get caught up in situations, life, age, and they have these ideas of these things you have to hit where, like, you can be like, oh man, I should have been on by now. I've been doing this for 10 years. I should have been on by now. And it literally can be one moment in a streamline of things that makes all those 10 years catch up with you in that moment. If you think about artists, like, let's think about it like Freddie Gibbs. If I'm correct, Freddie Gibbs was signed to Young Jeezy at some point.
At some point, you're dead
At
right
some
about
point
that.
he was. And that was years ago. Freddie Gibbs has been at it for 10 plus years.
Right.
Freddie Gibbs is in his prime.
He recently started beef with Nas, by the way, which was not a position I thought Freddie Gibbs would be at this point in his career.
But what's crazy is, like, Freddie Gibbs, he was just at Days in Vegas headlining. He is having his biggest career right now.
Yeah.
And if Freddie Gibbs got caught up in the idea that, like, I've been doing this for 7 years, I'm not going to get any higher, he probably wouldn't have. But all it is incremental consistency, just year after year after year. And I've seen it where something that, numbers are pretty. They're pretty analytics that make you feel good. But one thing I noticed is last October, I remember I went on my Spotify and, like, looked at all-time streams from 2015 to October. It was like, hey, congrats, you made 1 million, like, through 2015 all the way to 2020 October. You got 1 million streams, your first 1 million streams on all your songs. And I'm like, damn, that's crazy, Then 2020 to 21, I got 1.8 million streams.
Wow.
In that 1 year time. And, that really puts things in a perspective where, like, they always say, like, the first million is the easiest.
Yeah.
But there is something to that where it's like, when you've hit that kind of cornerstone of, like, what you're trying to do, you realize that, like, it catches up. It might have taken you 6 years to get to this number, but the following year after that, once you're at that number, you can ×2 surpass that. In the 6 years that it took to get there, you can do that in 12 months. So really, it's just about consistency, incremental.
How do you teach yourself that patience? Because that's not something that's built. Like you speak like Gandalf right now. Like like you really have the wisdom. And I'm curious how you taught yourself that.
Man, it's a mixture of like, having a dad growing up, having a dad who was an artist. Like my dad's from Ghana, my mom's from Korea. It took,
That explains the kimchi. That was going to be
you
my
know,
next
it
question.
yeah, it's like the continental story of how that came to be. It's like damn near impossible. But also I think it just takes a lot of reflection. Um, it takes a lot of reflection and just really understanding self.
Hmm.
Um, that's really all I could say is, I think people need to take, if this pandemic taught anybody anything, when people were locked inside going crazy, I was just like, been here before, like just when I was in my freshman year of high school, I had to go to military school. And the first like 6 months there, you don't have communication with your family. You just have to come in August and leave in December, like damn near, just like they don't really have you talking just because they want to sever that dependency kind of thing. And just in there's an amount of like solitude and just where you learned a lot about yourself. And just ever since then, I feel like growing up, I was very comfortable in self and who I am and like what I believed in.
Hmm.
And yeah, it just takes years. And I'm glad to see people, whether it be through psychedelics, mushrooms, going through things like ego death, but like a lot of people are getting in tune with themselves and finding comfortability in who they are. And not as much of the narrative of like self-love, but self-understanding,
Hmm.
like because self-love yeah, I love myself. That's great. But the idea is to understand yourself so you can understand others, and once you understand yourself, you can feel like you can operate functionally in this world. Because right now we're dealing with a lot of people who don't understand themselves.
Right.
Man, I need a TED talk. I need the whole TED talk. I'm not even gonna cap.
Sam's amazing. Before we let you go, I wanna bring this back up. You just did the Pigeon and Planes interview, and you were surprised by Just Blaze jumping in your space, and you had a chance to kind of like build with him and ask him about his production, and he kind of had a bit of an evaluation of you yourself, and felt like you were doing all the right things as they were. But what did you take away from his advice, and also did you get that drum kit?
I did not get that drum kit. And you can tell that he's somebody who like isn't on Instagram like that. Like, and that's where I DM'd him. And like when you're not on Instagram like that, you don't know what like message requests are. So unless there was an immediate follow after the interview, like I was assuming like I'm not gonna get that drum kit. But the advice I took away from that is because that's the thing is that interview was like chopped because I actually ended up asking him like 7 questions. We were on that thing for like an hour and 10 minutes. But one of the things he kind of told me is that like kind of and the summary of what people saw in that other video was after our conversation when he's like he gets it is he was just talking about how the moments that led up to his situations, and how everything leads up in making sense to your situation. And that's something like we're talking about now, where it's like every uphill, downhill battle that you go through, at the time it seems so like daunting and, like, oh my gosh. But in hindsight and perspective, you realize that it was all necessary, like whether how the saying when they're like you got to crack eggs to make an omelet. It's kind of one of those things where anything you go through is to the greater plan. Like if you're somebody dating a woman for several years and she breaks up with you, 5 years later you're with a wife and kids. You had to get dumped to be with your wife and kids, because if you weren't, that wouldn't have happened. So one of the things he broke down was he was just talking about like working with Jay-Z and kind of like guru and those situations and how it led to like more placements and this and that. And it was just crazy to see it, how it really was just a year after year after year domino effect where like that's been my whole career. Is just, I don't really have a huge label behind me, a big budget behind me. I've just had people who have given me opportunities that have led to other opportunities, and all I can do is just maximize those by being, like consistent, hardworking, and just honest and genuine. And those will, people will speak in rooms that you can't step in for you.
I love that. I love that answer. And before we let you go, I got a couple quick fun questions. We like to do some fun ones before we get out of here. This one's real quick. You still infatuated with Portland? Is that still the plan?
Yeah, that's definitely the plan.
Okay.
It's just a peace of mind, like I feel like if I'm having my music career go the way I want to, where I want to be situated, everybody's like, I want to go out to Cali, I want to go out to here. There's just a scenery, food aspect, and environment and memories out there that, that's where I would like to be.
So follow up to that question. First Thanksgiving in Portland, what dessert are you serving? Because you said clearly in the news segment that you think pumpkin pie is mid. So what's
mid, bro? You know what's funny is I was in the group chat with the homies today going, we were getting into it because like I would say 4 out of 5 of us were like, if you had to choose between sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie, why would you pick pumpkin pie?
I don't understand. I don't understand.
Why would, if you had to choose between those, which one would you pick?
Pumpkin.
Why?
Why? Because sweet potato's not that great.
Why though?
Because I think the first time I had sweet potato was not in pie form, and therefore I associate all sweet potato with like weird tasting potatoes.
When was the last time you had sweet potato pie?
I don't know. I avoid it.
And that's what I'm saying. This what I need you to do.
Okay.
It's Thanksgiving. Pull up on some sweet potato pie. Pull up on some pumpkin pie. Eat both. Tell me why you would pick pumpkin pie over sweet potato pie.
Okay. You know what?
You will end up being like, I get what he's saying. Sweet potato pie tastes like a better version of pumpkin pie. It does.
Okay.
Gabe, you think pumpkin pie is better?
I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't like sweet potato pie. I've tried it, but I'll say this: if Solo Sam wants to make some sweet potato pie, I'll be happy to enjoy it with you.
Hey, I'm gonna take you up on that offer.
Don't even air this. Delete all this. Y'all are out. I'm out of here. No, I would if I had to pick a dessert. Oh man. A dessert. It has to be Thanksgiving themed?
Yeah, I mean it is the episode, right?
Holiday theme, I suppose.
Yeah, it could be Christmas, I suppose.
I got you. If it's Christmas or like if it's a holiday themed, I would go red velvet cake.
There you go.
With the cheesecake frosting.
Yeah.
That would be my supreme holiday dessert. I feel like that would go. Besides like some kind of pie, like that's what I'm going for.
Word. And then one final question. I know we're eating into Sun Lu's time here, but the moment in Ratatouille, the movie Ratatouille, where the food critic eat the food and then he's suddenly a little kid eating the food. Is there a moment like that in music with you? Like, is it an album or just a song that you listen to and it just flashes you back immediately to being a small kid, like the first time you heard it?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, for sure. Tevin Campbell, Eye to Eye, off a Goofy movie.
Yo,
that song is one of the best songs ever. Two, if I hear that anywhere, that was a perfect song. If somebody's like, tell me a perfect song, it's Eye to Eye. It is just like whether it comes to production, singing, songwriting on there, and just arrangement, that's a perfect song.
Yo, I couldn't have asked for a better answer than that. That was excellent. That was excellent. Thank you so much for coming through and giving us your time, man.
Of course, my G. Thank you for having me. You know, Gabe, always appreciate you. We go way back, you know.
I know.
Since like, what was the name of that? The radio station.
Radio 1 Chicago.
Radio 1 Chicago. You know, like Gabe has always ran my projects on the radio. You know, if you couldn't make it to the release party, the listening party, you could always go to Radio 1 Chicago and hear it loop twice.
Yeah.
You know, I would always call in. I'd call in. We do the interview, and then people would be like, "Yo, I'm not there, but they're playing them on the radio." You know, I always appreciate you, Gabe.
No, I appreciate you for giving us your time. Principles to Die By is the new album from Solo Sam. Go put it into your life. You'll be a better person for it. Solo Sam, thanks. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you soon in person. I really miss checking in with you.
Of course, man. We got to go get some sushi, bro.
Listen, you set it up. I'm off all next week. You tell me when and where we can do it.
I'm down. I got to come home because I got a show in Austin this weekend. I'm going to go out there, come home, lock in a little bit, get my COVID test just to make sure I'm good before I'm out and about, and then I'm down.
All right. I'll hold you to it.
Hell yeah, man.
All right. Solo Sam joining us on Weekend at Games. Good evening. Have a good evening. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Solo Sam joining us on Weekend at Game. I always love talking to him. He's just like, as you've seen, such an insightful, thoughtful person. Really well elaborates and explains his thought process through the work that he does and work that he has done. He's just such a treasure.
That man is going to have a long career. So if you're watching now, you're here early still. And he's done more than 2 million streams now. So that's what's up. Shout out to Solo Sam.
Hey, I'm Weekend Gabe. Thanks for checking out this latest episode of Weekend at Gabe's. Click on any of the links swirling around my head and also hit the subscribe button while you're here. Thanks for checking out us here on YouTube.